Hey, howdy, hello, and welcome to the show. Welcome back to another episode of the Steam Redlight series, the series where we take a look at Steam's most lowly and controversially rated games to see if they're really as bad as the internet says they are. I'm your host for the day, Smirk.
Good news, everyone!
No games came out that I felt like reviewing this week, which means I get to review a suggested game. Today's game is a request from they who call themselves Crippy to Perry. They essentially gave me the choice of Yik, or Y2K depending on how you read it, or Two Brothers, which are both made by Axe Studios. I chose Two Brothers because I was mostly interested in its design choices and seeing their expansion and reproduction of the gameplay of Game Boy games. This game isn't on Steam anymore, and I'll talk about why at the end of the video, but I was able to find a key through the Green Man Gaming website. If you're interested in playing this game, I'll link that in addition to the Steam page in the description. So as I said earlier, today's game is called Two Brothers, which was released on December 3rd of 2013 and is priced on the Green Man Gaming website as a $15 game. It was developed and published by Axe Studios and actually originated as a successful Kickstarter project, corralling a little over $16,000 from 779 backers, far exceeding its $6,000 goal. The game currently has 32 reviews in total, with roughly 31% of those reviews being positive. In Two Brothers, you take the role of Roy Garter, a scientist extraordinaire who experiences a tragic event during his exploration that took the life of his wife, all the while transcending his own mortality due to the event and discovering this alternate realm where he experiences a range of 16-bit colors. This is a pretty meta thing to acknowledge since Two Brothers follows the Game Boy Classic aesthetic of displaying the game in its signature pea-soup grayscale. Roy's quest from here on out is to produce proof of the color scale's existence since the science community finds what he says to be no more than mere rambling, since the only way to experience this new world of color for yourself is to, well,
Kill yourself.
Roy eventually conscripts the help of his brother, which is where the game draws its title from. This game is mostly parallel to the older Legend of Zelda games since you kinda just have to wander around with some hint of direction as to what your next goal is. You press X to attack, Z to throw a ranged item, Enter to start, and Shift to select when necessary. There's also C, which opens up your item bag if you have a specific person as your adventuring partner. In this game, you'll have the ability to respond to certain prompts either with a happy, angry, or sad emoticon. It's my guess that your responses to certain prompts help influence the direction your game goes since this game is told to have multiple endings, even though it doesn't seem like these emoticons will always properly convey what you think they may. Some of the game's additional features involve an overworld, dungeon crawling, some light puzzling, boss battles, two-player compatibility, when possible, and some weapon variety. I personally chose to use the two dudes who said they could act as nunchucks, which is supposed to be a Kickstarter exclusive award, but someone did eventually post the Kickstarter code in the Steam community forum, which allows you into the Kickstarter caravan at the beginning of the game. The game dev doesn't seem to mind. I put just short of 3 hours into this game before stopping. How Long to Beat has 2 recordings of completion, one at 32 hours and one at 42 hours, so this game seems to be on the longer side. Anyway, that's about everything foundational to the game, so let's get into what I enjoyed. The thing that I liked the most about Two Brothers was the story's premise. I thought it was compelling, refreshing, and unique. I thought myself as pretty invested in what the outcome of Roy's journey would be, and the game does a great job of introducing some elements of mystery without being rife with fantasy cliches. The story also pairs nicely with some specific aspects of the gameplay. The story ties well into the gameplay in a way where Roy just can't die. When he dies, he just goes to the world of color and gets suplexed back down to Earth because it wasn't his time yet. This pairs nicely with the autosave that takes place whenever you go through any doorway because you don't have to retrace your same steps time and time again. Alright, that's it for the good. Let's move on to the other stuff. One of the smaller things I didn't really like was how the game was presented. The game boots up in this very small scale window that's totally unreasonable to play on, and the full screen options the game provides don't work and actually will break the game visually, forcing you to have to restart the application. I did find a way around this by doing a window capture of the game and blowing that up on my monitor while sending my inputs to the game window, so rate my setup, I guess. While I did praise a very specific piece of gameplay earlier, the combat itself is a bit broken. There are plenty of instances where my hits don't register. Maybe it's the brochucks, but there are other reviews out there that say the same thing, and I can't imagine all of us are using this weapon. There's also plenty of instances where collision detection doesn't work. Sometimes you get knocked out of the map, and to be fair, the game does draw you back into it because it knows you don't belong out there. But it does taint the experience. Now, I did find myself originally thinking that music was the best thing about this game. I appreciated that the music evolved as the game went on. When you start the game, you experience that FM synthesis type music that you would have experienced if you were playing on an actual Game Boy. As you progress through the game, and as you grow closer to discovering the power of color, the music becomes less modulated and more orchestral. However, I did see this mention of a song in another review that said this game plagiarizes a song called Demise of the Ritual from Shadow of the Colossus. Well, because I'm some type of rock-dwelling heathen, I never played Shadow of the Colossus, so without this review from they who call themselves CubeSona, I wouldn't have known. It doesn't take long before you run into the song in question, and once you compare the songs together, you'll see the similarities. Listen for yourself. With this type of activity present, there's absolutely no way I can commend any of this game's music composure, since this song is extremely predominant in indicating a dark or mysterious theme, which is commonplace in this game. And just to add more fuel to this fire, you can't adjust any of the sounds in the game itself, sound effects, music volume, or etc. You have to turn down the volume settings on your headset or your system, which is almost guaranteed to take place because this game just plays really loudly. Lastly, and definitely the worst offense in my opinion, is that the game has a bug that erases your save, which is personally where I ended my run, since that's one of the worst things that can happen during a playthrough. There is a save erasure key, which is Shift plus R, but I'm 100% certain that I did not hit that key combination. So how it happened is that I ran into this game-breaking bug that forced me to reload since I could no longer move, which happened at least one other time, by the way.
What do you want?
It's not that simple.
What do you want? God damn it. What do you want?
I have to go.
And when I came back, the game put me through the initial introduction message again. It's really unfortunate, because I was honestly willing to play through the game a little more to explore more of its story, but save erasure is just flat out unacceptable for a game that's been released, and since this game has been out since 2013 and since pulled from the Steam Marketplace, I can't imagine it's going to be getting fixed. With all those things considered, I think it's time for us to pass a verdict. To recap the strengths of this game, I think the story is compelling and interesting enough to pull you in, and there are some complementary gameplay mechanics that are built into supporting the story. Some things that I didn't like about this game are the graphical limitations of the application. You're forced to play on this small Game Boy sized screen, and the graphical options for full screening do not work, so you'll have to find your own solution like I did. The combat is finicky and buggy to where your hits don't reliably register, which could drive a lot of frustration in a game where combat does matter. The music has a flagrant rip of a song from another video game. And lastly, the game has multiple game-breaking bugs that force an application restart, and one big bad bug boy which causes your save to be erased. With all these things considered, I cannot recommend Two Brothers. It's really unfortunate that this game is troubled with the problems it has, since the severity of them far outweighs this game's strengths. If you're wondering why the game isn't available on Steam anymore, it's because the developer pulled it down back in October of 2015 as they planned on doing a remastering of the game in Unity. However, with no updates since March of 2016, both on Steam or the game's website, it seems as though the remastered version, which is now called Chromophore, is unlikely to see the light of day anytime soon, if at all. Well, that about wraps us up. Thanks for watching. If you like what I did here, consider supporting the channel by liking the video or sharing the video to someone who may like it. I welcome any comments about this game, the review itself, or any suggestions you may have. And lastly, subscribe if you couldn't shirk the smirk, and maybe I'll see you next week.
I need to not